Hey there. Today I'm going to talk about the art of forgetting. Now, you may have heard of the art of memory, but few people know that part of that art is a specific set of techniques aimed to help you forget. And that these techniques are extremely powerful. So much so that if you watch this whole video and take these lessons on board, you will immediately have more control over your own mind and more influence over others. Now, have you ever had an experience whereby you're seeking some particular bit of knowledge and you're trying very hard to recall it, but the immediate answer that you get that pops into your head isn't correct, but it's something similar? So maybe it's a name that sounds a bit like the name you're looking for, or a different date in history that happened in the same year. Then every time you go back trying to remember the real one, the same incorrect answer keeps appearing. It's like it's in the space, it's taken up the position whereby you're not able to find the truth. It's too similar to get past. The whole art of forgetting is based on this principle. You can't get rid of a memory just by destroying it or letting it go. It's best to replace it with something similar but better. Now, this art of forgetting is something which has always been part of the art of memory and fully understood by the ancients, but was really perfected in the medieval period by the Christian practitioners. And it was used both to gain more influence on the world around them, but also for therapeutic purposes, to help others and to keep the mind balanced. So one example we can see that was really very well applied in a very effective manner is to do with the aim of converting others to Christianity. The church authorities soon discovered that if you want to get rid of a pagan place of worship, it's best not to destroy it or burn it down. You need to do something else. If you do that, the worshippers actually remember it more. Even if they're just turning up to a site that used to have something special on it, you have empowered their memory and thus their religion. No, you have to be more careful than that, and you need to replace it. So you need to build a church on that sacred spot, and you need to look at the pagan practices and find a way to emulate them. So let's imagine it's a sacred stream, and the locals are worshipping a goddess of that stream, a goddess of water. You need to find a saint, an angel, or a story of a miracle connected with water to commemorate within that church. And then you can start to take on board all the practices that used to be done towards that goddess. So if they're throwing coins in the stream, let them throw them from the church, and make sure that everything is as close to the original way of doing things. And then you'll find that people start to forget. This was also used when it comes to changing rules or ideas. People are far more responsive to a change to a rule than getting rid of one. So, for example, if you find there's a village where archery is banned, but you want the locals to be practicing archery in order to be able to defend themselves, you're more likely to convince them of an inversion of that rule, one that makes archery compulsory every Sunday afternoon, than you are a removal. If you say, I want to remove that archery ban, people will object a lot more. So finding a way to adjust existing things within people's minds is the key. And to the degree that even using the same phrasing but for something else is more effective than if you just use your own words. If you want the locals to listen to you, write a poem in their style or a song in the way that they expect it, but with the ideas that you want them to pay attention to, put in a way which is more acceptable. This starts to take up the position in the mind that we see in our day-to-day life when something similar appears. This was also applied to helping people with their own memories. So let's imagine someone is being haunted by something horrible that's happened in the past. It's something that's occurred to them or they've witnessed and they've learnt all the lessons from it, they've mourned, but it's still there. It keeps coming up and it's getting in the way. If you found a master of memory, whether it be in a monastery, a wise monk, or a convent, you may find a nun, or maybe just a master of the Christian meditation and memory arts in the community, and you explain to them that you were having this problem, they would teach you a method to change that memory from something which hurt you to an empowerment. And what they would do is very clever. So they'd never really deal with or look at that memory. They'd get the theme of what happened, but they wouldn't give it any more attention which would empower it. No, they would choose a story which had a similar theme, but one of a hero which would inspire you, a hero that you wouldn't question. And the story would need to involve that hero becoming better and doing good works because of the same hardship that you're having a problem dealing with. And they would teach you this story again and again and again, and they would add more and more detail. So it was like a meditation practice. You'd go through that story again and again and again, each time adding emotion and focus. So in your mind there would be an active force, this empowering story based on the very same thing. As the process continued, your new memory would start to get the greater influence over your functioning consciousness. And sometimes it would start to connect, without you even knowing, with that previous memory, the experience that actually happened to you. Now, using it as a separate person and a different story, perhaps about a hero that everyone knows about, is very clever, because it allows you to look at things afresh without any guilt or doubt or confusion or connections getting in the way. So there's less barriers. And the teacher might move these things closer. So they may start to add just a touch of some of your real experiences into this other story, just so the mind gets the drift, so they connect eventually. And then, if effective, that memory that used to get in the way becomes an empowerment. So this is a very powerful, positive technique we can use. If you have a memory or an experience which isn't serving a purpose but is rather in the way, your mind keeps allowing it to come up and it's disempowering you. Look to stories. And within mythology, you'll find some very good targets for this. Lots of ancient heroes actually become divine because of the hardships, whether it be Psyche becoming the butterfly goddess because the confusing circumstance of love that she's in, or Hercules has hurt people he loves and he wants redemption. Odysseus losing everything and being lost. Look to whatever fiction you enjoy where the same experience leads to a good outcome, and go through that again and again and again and again until it becomes your mental property. And sooner or later, it will become part of the way you view the experience which is disempowering you. And thus, you have replaced something which was working against you with something which lifts you up. But this isn't the only application of the art of forgetting we can use. Remember, in those days, the word memory meant anything you form in your mind. It didn't just have to be something from the past. You could use this as a means to correct an existing, ongoing set of habitual thoughts. So let's imagine that there are negative automatic thoughts that pop into your mind and you've noticed them. Maybe there's circumstances of self-doubt when self-doubt isn't needed. Or maybe there are thoughts that lead to certain behaviours that you'd rather get rid of. Remember the art of forgetting. If you want to change these, you must replace them with something similar or better. So it's far easier to redirect an urge for sweet food to an urge for healthy food. It's far easier to invert a thought of self-doubt than it is to cut it off. So if you find yourself saying, I can't do this, just take away that T every time. I can't do this. When that comes up, I can do this. Keep replacing with something so similar that it starts to meld into what you want. And remember all those techniques we mentioned to begin with. Use the same tone, use the same phrasing initially as the negative thought with small changes. Look at the habits that you have that you might want to adjust. If you've got a habit of drinking alcohol in the evening, replace that with savouring fine teas. You're still drinking something, you're still enjoying it. It's far better than just trying to cut something out. In life, use the art of forgetting as a means to help others. Tell them that empowering, similar story. Use the same phrasing as they use, but with a better outcome in order to bring blessings and goodness into the world. This way, we can apply the principles within and express them without, and practice continually until it becomes something we've fully mastered. And just remember that in life we reap what we sow. So use these techniques only for good purposes, so that you can be characterized by noble actions and beneficial outcomes. My name is Martin Faulks, and I hope that this video helps the world remember the art of forgetting, and that anyone who's watched it and wants to gain empowerment from a memory or a habitual set of thoughts that used to hold them back can do so using this technique. Until next time, let's let every word, thought and action count.